Joining us now is royal commentator Claudia Joseph. Claudia, great to see you. We are seeing these extraordinary pictures as it approaches 11 p.m, getting closer to midnight in Edinburgh, with well-wishers wanting to pay their respects. But the ceremony, the process and the beautiful casket inside St Giles Cathedral. Talk to us about that.
Well, I think that the world wants to pay tribute to the Queen, and they're all passing by her very quietly and respectfully. She's lying in state with the Crown of Scotland, a floral tribute from her family, and it's all very peaceful. Obviously, earlier in the day we saw her three sons and daughter standing vigil by the coffin, looking, quite frankly, grief-stricken.
Worth pointing out that Crown of Scotland, it is over 500 years old, isn't it? One of the oldest pieces of jewellery in all of Europe. It's priceless, you can't insure it. I was reading today that it was buried during the Second World War because they feared the Germans would get it if they invaded. So it's a stunning piece of jewellery, but you've also got roses that were picked from Balmoral, that's on the reef.
Yes.
And the Royal Standard as well, the Scottish version of it. So there's so many nods to Scotland and her involvement in it.
Well, she absolutely adored Scotland, and she spent a lot of time there throughout her reign, and I think obviously there was a huge contingency plan if she died at Balmoral, and as we've seen, it's been very moving, and it's meant that Scotland has been able to take such a high-profile role.
A lead in it, yeah.
It's fitting as well. We spoke to John McTernan earlier in the program, and I think it's fitting. That's the perfect word for it. But Claudia, I'm very interested. If she didn't die at Balmoral, what would have happened? What would the process have been if she was here at Buckingham Palace? Would she still have done that tour of Scotland?
I think it would be unlikely that she'd have done the tour of Scotland. I think it would have been sort of, she'd have lain in state for longer in Westminster, and people would have travelled down. We'd have still seen the procession from Buckingham Palace to Westminster and all the vigils and all that sort of thing. But I suspect that 2 days extra have had to be factored in because of Scotland.
Do want to ask you about William and Harry. A few more details have emerged about their walkabout the other day. It was a bit of a surprise, caught everyone by surprise, and some suggestions here, the 11th hour call, who made it? Was it the new king? Was it William who said, no, we've got to do something? What do you know about that? I
think it was William. I think the fact that he's very pragmatic, and I think he realised that they needed to set aside their differences for such a momentous occasion. And in fact, I think he texted Harry sort of more or less the moment they were due to go out there. He suddenly had this thought, and that's why they were 3/4 of an hour late, because Harry and Meghan then had to find something to wear because they obviously weren't dressed for the occasion. But I think you know, both Harry and William, you know, were pragmatic about it, and it was the right thing to do. And
talk to us about the protocol when it comes to the military uniform. We saw Prince Andrew, the Duke of York. He was not wearing his military uniform today when he was with his siblings. He was in a morning suit. There is some reporting that he is being allowed to wear his military uniform as a special gesture when he attends the vigil. But what does that mean for Harry? Because, of course, Harry stepped down as a working royal. What's the protocol there? Well,
I think I'm not sure there is protocol in the sense that it's a very unexpected position. We've got Andrew obviously has had to step down because of his past, his history.
He's an outcast.
He's, you know, effectively an outcast. He's been stripped of all his military roles, so obviously it does not look good if he's in military uniform. And Harry has left Britain, given up his royal duties, and so therefore he's lost his titles. I suspect, but I don't know, that it will be something to do with being the son as opposed to the grandson.
The one-off.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very much a one-off for him to pay tribute to the Queen. We don't know yet who's going to be at the vigil, whether it will just be the four of them again, in which case it's not an issue. They're not going to be wearing uniforms at the funeral itself. And we don't know if William and Harry will be at the vigil yet. So
yeah, it's an interesting point that, and we're almost out of time. We've got a tractor.
Yeah, I know.
Moving something equipment behind us, folks. That's what that's about. But but Andrew, it's been claimed was one of maybe the Queen's favourite son. Andrew and Charles are not close. So what happens to Andrew now? Does he disappear after all of this? Well,
I think he's more or less disappeared before this, hasn't he? I mean, we haven't seen him in public for a long time. Obviously, he's been lobbying to have a more high-profile role, but it's just not possible, really. I think most people realise, maybe apart from Andrew, that he sadly has to do something else, that he can't play a high-profile role. And certainly once Harry's book comes out, I mean, we'll have to wait and see what he says in that. But if there's some more revelation.
Whether this moment, the beautiful moments of unity, might change a few of these things and the trajectory perhaps of that book. But Claudia, a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks so much for your insights.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you soon.
Yes.